Okay, so you're interested in doing a brake flush. Well, there's a way to test it for copper. I watched this one video, and he tested for copper in the brake fluid. All right, he used these little strips of paper that changed color. It started with a really deep purple, and then went to a light purple. He just kind of progressively tested his brake fluid while doing, I believe, some kind of a flush. But you don't exactly need that test paper. You could just look at the fluid, the brake fluid itself. But that's not easy. You wanna look at it where it's at the brakes, at one of your wheel hubs, one of the calipers, and you want to be careful about that because this is a closed loop system where you can't allow any air into the brake fluid system, because that air will compress better than the brake fluid. So as you press down on the brake, the air will give away a little bit and you'll have to press even harder. It'll be a spongy brake pretty much if you get air bubbles in there. And if you let the brake fluid get a little too old, I believe, like if you bought a bottle, it's only like supposed to be good for 6 weeks. But brake fluid in your car, it gets wet. Okay, there's like it heats up a lot, and it's vulnerable to water, to moisture. It's like a cracker or something. It'll absorb moisture. It's highly corrosive, so the equipment that's containing it has got to be really strong enough to handle this corrosive stuff. And then it gets water. It'll attract water, and then the water will heat up and boil. Water boils at 200 degrees, and brake fluid boils at 600 degrees. So the water will, and the brakes get really hot when you stop. So the water will boil at 200 degrees, and it'll kind of boil off and create air pockets if you get too much water or air in the brake fluid. So you need to keep that system closed. All right. There's different methods for brake fluid. You could use 2 people. It's called a 2-person pump and hold. Okay, and it's pretty tricky. The 1-person pump and hold. Okay, and that's there's people that make videos about that. You could look at. There's a special equipment called a vacuum method. All right, there's a pressure method, which is probably another type of special equipment. Reverse pressure method, it's probably another different type of like a device. All right, so those are 5 methods for brake flush. All right, and I believe three of them are probably taking a special kind of equipment. You'll see that there's a brake bleeding kit. All right, there's a truck hit a tree. There's a special kind of brake bleeding. There's special kinds of brake bleeding kits. All right, depending on the style that you want to use. The easiest one does appear to be the vacuum method, where you just apply pressure in at the reservoir, the brake fluid reservoir. All right, and then when you do a bleeding sequence, when you get to the calipers, you got all 4 tires off. You want to bleed them until they're clean. There's a sequence you got to follow, which is the rear right. It's how you start with the hose, the brake line that's the longest, and the longest line. Then all lines. There's 4 lines that run to each wheel. So you start with the one that's the longest from the reservoir, and generally it tends to be the right rear first, and then you go to the next, the shortest, front left, which isn't exactly the shortest. Okay, right rear, then front left, then rear left, then front right. There's a bit of a sequence there. All right, all right. So let's see. That for brake fluid flush, I've seen a lot of people use turkey basters to get out some of the brake fluid from the reservoir. All right, and then those turkey basters got to be throwaway items because they're going to be corroded after the one time, the way it sounds. So that's it.